A very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, our program bringing you all the latest news and events happening all around the African continent. My name is Angie Meher, and as usual, we begin straight away with a look at some of the news making the headlines, where President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, in a brotherly meeting, exchanged viewpoints with the visiting UAE President, the Jordanian and Bahraini monarchs, as well as Iraq's Prime Minister, over boosting ties and expanding cooperation in all fields. They also inspected the new Al Alamein city, along with the UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed, was received on Monday, and Jordan's King Abdullah II, Bahrain's King Hamad bin Isa, and the Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi. All this at Al Alamein Airport. Earlier, presidential spokesperson Bassem Radi said President al-Sisi welcomed the Arab leaders in a friendly meeting, and he praised Egypt's strong historical ties with their countries. And Cairo and Abu Dhabi have enjoyed historical close ties with joint projects and cooperation which have developed swiftly in the recent years. Let's take a closer look in this report.
The Egyptian-UAE relations are based on the foundations of strategic partnership between the two countries to achieve interests of the two peoples and face challenges in the region. The leadership of the two countries and their officials always meet at all levels to coordinate on these challenges. The number of exchanged visits between the two leaders of the two countries has reached about 22 since 2014. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces visited the Egyptian capital about 13 times. The Egyptian popular diplomacy also played a role in supporting relations with Abu Dhabi, where it expressed its appreciation and thanks for the UAE's position, which has backed Cairo in the fight against terrorism and extremist ideology. On the 7th of June 2014, a high-level UAE delegation headed by Mohammed bin Zayed participated in the inauguration ceremony of President al-Sisi to open the page on Egyptian-UAE relations during the era of the new Egyptian leadership. After only 3 months, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan held talks with the Egyptian president that included files of the region, a visit that determined the strategic nature of the two leaders' meeting. President al-Sisi began the year 2015 with his first visit to the UAE at the invitation of Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. It was agreed in February 2017 to form a bilateral political consultation mechanism that would meet every 6 months at the level of foreign ministers and the other at the level of senior officials. The two countries have strong and solid relations, which represents a model to be emulated in Arab relations. At the economic level, the UAE ranks first in terms of foreign direct investments in Egypt, as UAE direct investments reach about $15 billion. In return, Egypt is one of the UAE's largest trading partners, and the UAE market is the first destination for Egyptian exports. Egypt and the UAE represent a buffer wall in order to protect the region and a model of relations to be emulated in the region and the world. Recent years have witnessed close coordination between the two countries on major issues such as Palestinian, Iraqi, Lebanese, Libyan, Yemeni, and Syrian issues. There is a great convergence in political visions and positions towards regional issues.
Welcome back. We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Mr. Nadim Samna, the International Investment Consultant. It's a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us. And let me start by asking you, how do you see the timing of this visit by the four leaders to Egypt, sir?
Well, it is a continuous collaboration. It's not just timing, it's a continuous collaboration. So that the first announcement of this treaty between the three countries was in last May. And since then, other countries expressed their willingness to join this coalition or economic economic coalition, and it is the summer, and it was a good opportunity also to present what's happening in Egypt in New Alamein. It's also it's a way to showcase, let's say, the plans of the government to develop the whole region from a touristic point of view. So it's not like a timing very, very crucial or very important. It's a continuous process.
Doctor, are you with us on the line?
Yes, yes.
Yes, but the reason I'm asking you about the timing is, of course, with all the global challenges and the developments happening, the meeting discussed expanding cooperation between the countries, the 5 countries in various fields, both bilaterally and multilaterally. How important was this amongst the discussions between the leaders, sir?
Well, as you mentioned, the world is facing a lot of challenges.
Yes.
For 2 years, the world had this sanitary crisis, and it was a real challenge for all countries. And now we are facing, in my opinion, a higher challenge because we are facing this shortage in food, and food is like basic necessity. The normal behavior for countries is to unite, is to try to find collaboration and cooperation, say friends or allies. And this is what's happening. And it didn't start, let's say, it didn't start today. It started a few years back. And what you are seeing today is the fruit of continuous discussion, very, very fruitful discussions between Arab leaders, and this is also why from 3 countries now we are talking about 5 countries, and hopefully the number of countries will continue to grow to increase the economic integration between Arab countries.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, sir, the meetings also discussed several issues related to regional concerns that featured high on the agenda. How do you see, the relationship and the ties amongst Cairo, Damascus, Baghdad, Manama, and Abu Dhabi related to their viewpoints regarding the developments in the Arab region?
Well, the Arab region has been facing serious challenges for the past, let's say, 11 years. It is a continuous flow, and among the countries even that you mentioned, let's say Iraq, for example, has been facing challenges for 30 years now. So maybe it's a time where all countries, they feel that they are facing challenges, and they have like a win-win situation where they can really cooperate. Probably the UAE will be let's say, the financing arm of this cooperation, and we can see that Egypt has, let's say, a lot of talent and a lot of workforce. Iraq has an unexploited reserve of oil. Jordan, also in the same situation as Egypt, has a workforce, has a lot of know-how. So this is why the economic integration is important between these Arab countries.
Indeed. Right, Mr. Nadim, now the New Alamein city promises not only to be a summer retreat, but also a thriving tourism industry and housing compounds throughout the whole year, not just during the months of the summer season. What investment opportunities do you see Egypt possessing, and how have they used, this visit to really shed light on the New Alamein city and all its potential?
Well, we can see there were a lot of investments in infrastructure, that's for sure. So the construction of Alamein city, or the high buildings, the road, the new road that was inaugurated, not yet officially inaugurated, but it was built this year, and the city of Alamein with all the universities and buildings and residential areas. So all these investments will contribute to the development of Alamein. It will definitely remain summer city. I mean, this is normal. What we are trying, I think this is what the government is trying to do, is in the first stage to expand this summer season, maybe to start in May and end of, let's say, end of September or maybe early October. This is possible. The idea is also to maintain like a minimum level of services to allow people who come, for example, visit the Alamein, the area, let's say, following the Second World War. They don't have some exclusively for the beach and for the summer. And for this, we still need some development. We still need to advertise about it. We need to facilitate, let's say, there's still some, let's say, some pieces missing until all this area becomes really touristic destination known worldwide.
Absolutely. Mr. Nadim, now lots of investment opportunities have arisen over the last few years, and Egypt has really become a spearhead of investment opportunities in North Africa and the MENA region as a whole. How do you see the investment opportunities now that Egypt possesses, especially in light of the current situation globally? How attractive do you see Egypt as an investment hub?
Well, the current situation is not really favorable for investment in any country, to be very clear. And Egypt, as an emerging country, is facing additional challenges. What we can call the flight quality is hurting all countries. Now that the Federal Reserve Bank is raising the interest rate, so they attract and collect investment, or let's say hot money from all over the world. It makes investments in other countries more difficult to justify. So it is a challenging situation.
Yes.
And specifically for Egypt, definitely the restrictions on imports, the restriction on the currency, the uncertainty on the foreign exchange rate between the pound and the dollar makes a decision to actually invest in Egypt harder. But we can see that already Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar and other Arab countries that are already, let's say, committing and already investing in Egypt.
Yes.
And this is a sign of the trust in the Egyptian economy. And this is also why the government is discussing with the IMF, because it will give an additional, let's say, guarantee or additional certificate of trust from an international organization.
In order to assure further investment and investors in Egypt. Indeed. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Nadim, Samna, International Investment Consultant. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And to wrap up today's edition of Africa Today, of course, feature a story on UAE Alamein City, which of course promises not just to be a summer attraction overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, but also a home to a thriving tourism industry. Let's take a look.
Egypt's new city of New Alamein promises to be not only a summer retreat overlooking the Mediterranean, but also the home of thriving tourism industry and housing compounds all year round. Efforts started with a new road network to connect the country's cities with one another, followed by the building of fourth-generation cities that will provide living areas and services for all social brackets. The plans are being implemented not by building an agricultural land, but by expanding in new areas that are promising for their natural resources and economic infrastructure that can generate job opportunities to encourage people to move. One such a new city is New Alamein, which is scheduled to become a fourth-generation city functioning not only as a summer retreat on the north coast overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, but also to be home to the thriving tourism industry and housing compounds. The goal is in line with Egypt's Vision 2030 strategy for sustainable development and the country's efforts to improve the livelihoods of all Egyptians. New Alamein is based on the idea of creating a touristic, residential, agricultural and industrial city that operates all year round. The city is the starting point of urbanizing the North Coast, beginning with Alamein, and it will be built in several phases on a total area of 148,000 fadans of land. The first phase of the city is being constructed on 23,000 fadans of land, and projects are divided into 14-kilometer public promenade reminiscent of the Alexandria Corniche, half of which has now been finished. 15 residential and administrative towers, various villas built on artificial islands, and residential neighborhoods catering for different social strata. The neighborhoods include luxurious housing, apartments for middle-income families, downtown buildings, and a traditional designed Latin district. The downtown apartments range in size from 90 to 300 square meters, and some 90% of them, together with the spas, stores, and the administrative and service areas, have already been completed by 3,000 workers working around the clock. The city's residential compound project is located opposite to the area located for the beach towers. It is erected on a group of artificial islands, each with a beach front of 2 kilometers and a number of villas. Compounds extends over 700 fadans of land and includes 12,500 villas, chalets, and apartments. The concrete structure of the 44-story residential towers of the beach has been completed, and the finishing and installation of the glass facades of the towers is underway.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Today. You're in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.